Here come the boys. Y'all ready to go swimming, baby? Come on. Give it up. Get out of that water. I tried telling y'all, it's swim lessons, baby.
What is good people? My name is Dallas Hanson. Thank you for choosing Swim Lessons, the podcast. My guest today is Austin Greenheck. Austin is a pilot, and he's been all over the world twice. He's a very interesting cat, and Austin and I talked about aviation. We talked about him flying overseas. He's had some interesting trips over to China, and just kind of where aviation has started to where it's now and where it might go. And it was a very interesting conversation, and I like talking to Austin because he's a knowledgeable cat and he knows so much about airplanes. And lately, with everything going on in the world, I wanted to talk to somebody that knows something about this field, and he was the perfect guy to do that. So appreciate Austin coming through, and I appreciate our sponsors that made today possible. How about Glosso Angus, proud sponsor of Swim Lessons, the podcast? They are your premier source for registered Black Angus cattle since 1973. Glosso Angus cattle showcase dominance, durability, and docility, and they're built to thrive on the northern plains. Check them out. That's Glosso, Glasoe, Angus.com. How about PSP Network? It's in the game. PSP Network going to be calling some football games for them this fall, basketball games this winter. And right now they're having a golf show on YouTube. You can check that out on their YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, give them a like, maybe even leave a comment. That's at PSP Network. Again, their schedule of events for this fall. I know people are anticipating that a lot because we got a lot of great football coming at you here on the PSP Network. Check that out on their website. That's psp.network. Appreciate Nick Holber and the crew coming on board. And if you're ever in the heart of the Bakken, Williston, North Dakota, and you're hungry, you gotta go check out River's Edge Bar and Grill. They're known for offering the best happy hour in town, providing unbeatable deals in a lively atmosphere. Guests can also enjoy a variety of entertaining activities, including bingo, trivia, and the very popular Name That Tune. Come on down to River's Edge for great drinks, great food, and great fun. Appreciate all the sponsors. Appreciate everybody listening. Means the world to me. We got a big thing coming up very soon. And to see this grow to where it is now is helped me out a lot in life. So appreciate everybody. Let's now talk to the master of the sky, a pilot's tale, Mr. Austin Greenheck. What's up, man? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. How was you were just in Minnesota flying?
Yeah, I went down there for, I think 3 days, do some check rides over there. So that was fun.
Okay. Check rides are when somebody's trying to become a pilot, right?
Yeah. So it's like if, take the driver's test, for example. Mm-hmm. You go take your written test is what you do for your permit test. And it's just like aviation. You go take a written test and then you come and do a practical with a person like me who's an examiner, much like you go to the DMV and get that examiner and they drive around with you for, 20, 30 minutes, make sure you can parallel park. It's the same thing for aviation. So we go out and fly the airplane with them for hour and a half and make the decision whether they get to become a pilot or not, which is difficult sometimes.
I was going to say, what's like the biggest mistake you see that's always happens with those?
It's a pretty broad question, only because I do check rides for every single rating or certificate that is offered. So, I mean, at the most basic level, so just like the private pilot certificate, normally it's just like on the oral portion, people aren't prepared, whether it be like airspace knowledge or aerodynamics, or sometimes they just don't quite know the regulations well enough. When we get to the flight, a lot of times there's one maneuver we call steep turns, where it's bank 45 degrees and maintain your altitude all around a full 360-degree circle.
Ooh.
And for some reason, those seem to be very challenging for some folks.
Why, they just freeze up, or?
It wouldn't be like really freeze up. When you bank a certain degree in an airplane, you start losing altitude, and you got to compensate for that. So for the beginner, it can be a challenging maneuver for sure. And as you get to the more advanced check rides, it should get easier, but unfortunately, it still remains to be one of the more challenging ones. So
yeah, I bet. Is there any, like, because when we went to that, by the way, congratulations on the engagement.
Oh, yeah.
You picked a great one.
Wow.
She's
Thank you.
amazing.
I agree with
Kristen's sister, Kelsey, and I'm excited for the wedding. And it's going to be in an airplane hangar too, right?
So it's going to be at the Dakota Territory Air Museum.
Ooh.
We have a couple different buildings up there. It'll be in what we call the Legends Hangar, or the reception will be in the Legends Hangar, where we have a private collection of World War II aircraft, which are all still flying. And I've been fortunate enough to work my way into flying a couple of them.
Wow.
Which was kind of my goal for a very long time.
Yeah.
So,
because I remember when you guys first started dating, and Kelsey goes, I think Austin's flying to Crosby today. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, it's for a funeral. And it was
Yeah.
Johnny Benner, who's a big time vet. And you were flying one of the old warplanes, or wasn't it something like that?
yeah, so
You're flying over
we
Crosby?
took, Warren and I flew up there in his Canadian Car and Foundry Harvard Mark IV, which is based off the North American T6 Texan, which is what was used as a trainer back in World War II. So it's a 600 horsepower radial engine, 2 seats, tandem. It's a tail wheel for anyone who knows what that is.
Little wheel on the back.
Little wheel in the back versus the nose wheel. So,
Okay. Yeah, but how was it flying up to Crosby in that thing?
I think that day was actually really cold.
Really?
That airplane is supposed to have heat in it. It was the Canadian version, whereas the North Americans, they didn't have the heat muff on them. So that's why the Canadian Car and Foundry was made or was on contract to build some for the Canadian Air Force at the time. And they built the heat muff for the heat. That airplane that we were flying still was a Canadian Car and Foundry airplane, but the heat muff had been removed for whatever reason. So we basically just had the greenhouse effect from the canopy and the good old sun. But it's okay, but it was still pretty chilly.
Well, I mean, I've got so many questions for you. And one of them, when I was sitting down when we agreed to this, how does a guy find your way into aviation?
Well, I think it's something most commonly you find people who have a parent or a grandparent or something that was a pilot, and they find their way into aviation that route. For me, I didn't have any of that. Both my parents weren't pilots. My grandparents weren't pilots. My dad was a landman in the oil field, working with oil and gas minerals, and my mother's a CPA. So kind of definitely a different route to take. Initially, I wanted to fly in the military, and that's part of my story. Is I did apply to the 3 main service academies to be able to commission as an officer in the armed forces, and that's one of the routes you're able to go and fly the airplane. So fighter jets is what I really wanted to fly.
Top Gun.
Top Gun. I did want to fly an F-14. That would have been a dream, but unfortunately they retired those back in 2007. So before I ever got out of grade school, the airplane I wanted to fly got retired. So I did apply at the academies, and I didn't get accepted to the academies, whereas my twin brother did. So I immediately had to come up with a plan B. And
so your twin got in.
Yeah.
What does that feel like?
It's really interesting because they send you a letter in the mail. One letter says, congratulations, Quinn Greenheck, you have been accepted to the United States Naval Academy. And he ended up getting accepted to the Naval Academy and West Point, so the Army's college. Whereas I didn't get accepted to any of them. So my letterhead was, we regret to inform you, but thanks, but no thanks.
Dude, but that's got to fuel you to be like, okay, I'm still going to do this dream I have. Or not really?
Well, a little bit.
Yeah.
I think my heart was still set on flying an airplane. I think at that point, my dreams were a little bit crushed of flying in the military. So again, it was back to plan B. What do I do? Do I go to college? So do I go to like a UND for aviation, or do I go to an Embry-Riddle for aviation? Until my high school teachers, the first year they offered the aviation class at Minot High.
What? That's a thing?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know you're from Crosby.
I know, yeah. We offer English and math.
Yeah.
Phi-Ed.
Yeah, so it was the first year it was offered, and my brother and I had actually gotten our private pilot certificate, so kind of your entry-level pilot's license between our junior and senior year of high school. So going into our senior year of high school, the first year they offered the class, we already were certificated pilots. So I kind of went in there with a big chip on my shoulder, I'm about to show everybody in this class, who's the king, right? But in hindsight, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have just sat there and listened and learned from the teacher, because he had a lot of experience. He was a pilot himself, a flight instructor, and kind of in retirement took the teaching job. But Merrick Murphy is his name. He talked to my parents and said, hey, you don't have to go to college to fly an airplane, which when I went through school, it wasn't just college for flying. It was, you need to go to college to work on a car.
Yeah.
Which I think today's society is maybe shifting a little bit back away from that a little bit, which is probably pretty good. So we started looking at, okay, if I don't have to go to college for this, what do I do? So basically go to the airport, find a flight instructor, rent an airplane, and learn to fly. I already had that private pod certificate, so now on to my instrument rating. So the instrument rating allows you to fly through the clouds, whereas the private pod certificate, just by itself, you can't fly through the clouds. So 75 degrees and sunny is about when you can fly. Mm-hmm. So I went on to the instrument rating, commercial, and then what we call CFI, or Certified Flight Instructor Certificate, where I was able to actually start teaching people. And the day I got that certificate, I went back up to the airport to the flight school the next day and was like, hey guys, the ink is still wet on this certificate. Can I teach people how to fly here? And Warren basically walked me back to the office and pointed at the time, I think it was his wife and our current gal that's up there. And we started paperwork right there and started flying teaching people how to fly, and then eventually flying for hires.
Hey folks, are you craving authentic, mouth-watering smoked meats? Well, let me tell you where to go. It's Bronson's Smokehouse in Beulah, North Dakota. They've been serving up legendary country-style sausage, jerky, and Slim Jims for over 40 years. Order online today at bronsonsmokehouse.com. That's Bronson's, BRONSONS, smokehouse.com, and taste the tradition.
She was the one. We just went back to the office and did all the paperwork, get me actually hired onto the books, and that's where I started. I started teaching people how to fly there back in, I think it was 2017, and that eventually led into flying airplanes for hire, where people would hire me just to fly their airplane, which that's pretty slick.
That is awesome.
Sitting in the right seat, teaching people how to fly an airplane. I mean, you learn a lot, but it's not flying the airplane. It's not scratching that itch that, like, hey, I want to be flying this airplane. So when you do get back to the left seat, which is the captain's chair, and you're able to fly the airplane again and get paid to do it, like, that's starting out, that's pretty impressive.
I bet. So what was your first flight alone like? I mean, that's got to be a kind of a trippy thing.
Alone?
Yeah.
Or like for hire?
Yeah. Just like the first flight when you're like, okay, it's just me, Austin. I'm just the only guy. I'm going above the clouds today.
Just make sure I understand what you're asking. You asking the first flight that I was getting paid to fly by myself, or like the first time I ever flew an airplane by myself?
First time you ever flew an airplane by yourself.
So that was a few years, it's like 2 years earlier than that. When you get ready for your private pilot certificate, all the training, you get about 10 hours, 20 hours of instruction from your instructor, and then they gear you up for what we call your first solo, which is a pretty big event, as you can
first solo
imagine. My brother and I, we went down to what we call there's like this flight academy with this organization called Civil Air Patrol that we were in back in the day. And so we went down to Fremont, Nebraska, and I think it was a 2-week camp where you got 24 hours of ground school, and you got 10 hours of flight time with an instructor, and then you would get to solo. So my first solo was kind of in a controlled environment a little bit, because the whole Civil Air Patrol is a government, I guess, program in a way. So we were limited to just staying in the traffic pattern. We geared up and did all the FAA requirements. When the instructor thought, hey, you're good enough to go by yourself, my instructor literally got out of the airplane on the taxiway and stood right beside the runway with a handheld radio so he could talk to me. And I closed the door and locked it and pushed power in and took off again and just did 3 laps in the pattern. And it's been so long ago for me right now that I really can't remember what that feeling was like anymore.
I bet. Yeah.
But I'll tell you, from the other side of it as a flight instructor is really a lot more recent for me. When I train someone, so for example, I could take you, we go to the airport, and I'll train you for 20 hours, give you all the required ground school, and you'd be in the same position I was back then, and I could solo you when I thought you were ready. And for me as a flight instructor, I feel like it's just as nerve-wracking sitting on the ground, watching your student that like, they're like, hey man, I taught this guy how to fly. If he messes up, this is kind of on me.
Yeah.
So like he's ready. It's a weird spot to be because you do know he's ready or she. I mean, I've trained both, but they're ready. But man, there's just always this nerves about it. And when I was doing it a lot, when I was flight instructing a lot and soloing a bunch of people, you kind of lost the nerves. But now that I haven't taught anybody to fly in a while, and I do it every once in a while where you still get someone that goes up for the first time and you sign them off and it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
I go upstairs and to one of the offices at the airport. I'm peeking through the curtains watching them, because you don't want them to like see you. So they get nervous. But I am nervous a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's your pupil, if you will. Yeah, it's your student. So this is the big part that I'm very interested in. When do you get the job to go fly overseas with what was the company?
So currently I work for a company called Atlas Air Worldwide.
There we go.
I took a little bit of a different path getting to what we call the airline. And it's not a typical airline like your United, Delta, American Airlines. We don't fly out of Minot, North Dakota.
Yeah, that was always weird because your home base is Cincinnati, right?
It was Cincinnati, and we got rid of Cincinnati because we got rid of our DHL flying. So now I'm Chicago based, where more of our flights originate from. So for me, Cincinnati, Chicago, they're about both as easy to get to from here as each other. So, but getting to the airline in general, normally you would flight instruct for 1,500 hours, and you need that 1,500 hours so you can go on and get your next certificate, which is your airline transport pilot certificate. And back before one of the big crashes, it was like Colgan Air, I think, the Congress upped the minimum hours requirement to sit in the right seat of a Part 121 airliner. They upped it to that 1,500 hours. You can get into there a little bit younger if you go to, or a little bit, not younger, but
1,500 hours.
Which is, I mean, it sounds like a lot, but at the same time, it's not. So when I had my 1,500 hours, I actually went and started flying for a local gentleman who had his own airplane here in town. We did end up taking that airplane overseas, but it was just a corporate aircraft. So I flew for him and his family in the business for 5 years approximately. And that was a really fun job. Went to, I think, like 46 states. Went to Canada. Made it up to Alaska, made it to Greenland, Iceland, the Netherlands, France, Spain, Italy.
Wow.
So quite a few places. Oh, Turks and Caicos, almost forgot that one.
That's a good one.
That we took them out there for a Christmas vacation and that.
Oh,
so
nice.
I spent a couple nights out there and before I came home. But that was actually one of my first times being out of the country, and I was like flying the airplane.
Oh boy!
So that's a bit interesting, bit weird, kind of a weird feeling. Like, hey, this is my first time out of the country, and oh, by the way, you're the one. Like, everyone's on the airplanes relying on you for their safety. That's kind of an interesting concept. So I flew for this guy for 5 years, whereas a normal person would get your 1,500 hours and go to a regional airline or a cargo airline, flying freight in and out of Minot, or the regional airline would be like SkyWest or Envoy or Republic. And they're the ones that are flying the Embraers or the CRJs in and out of cities like Minot or Bismarck or Fargo, and they're taking them to Minneapolis or to Denver, where you get on what we call the mainline airplanes, which are the Deltas, the Uniteds, the Americans. So normally you go to work for one of those regionals and you work for them for a few years, and then you get hired at the majors. So Delta, American, United, or UPS, FedEx would be considered a major as well. So my issue, I went to work for this guy and flew his airplane for 5 years, but I didn't have what we call this 121 time. And that 121 time is so important because that's what the majors look for. They want you to have that experience in the industry doing what they do. So coming from the corporate side of things, I didn't have that time. So I had to kind of go to this off-brand airline in a sense, which is what Atlas is, and got on flying one of the world's biggest aircraft, flying a Boeing 777 or 777.
Holy.
And we're flying, on the 777, we fly strictly freight. We don't fly any passengers. And so that's kind of how I got into flying the freight. A little bit of a different path, but same outcome.
How much freight we talking?
Well, you're kind of getting into how airplanes work, and it's all based on weight. So we have what we call the basic empty weight, which is what the airplane weighs. And then you have your max gross weight, which is like our max, well, call it our max takeoff weight, which is 766,000 pounds for the 777. So you got to fit, well, take your max max takeoff weight minus your basic empty weight. And now you got to put your fuel load and your cargo into that whatever that number is. And that's the max you can take. So on a longer flight where you need more gas, you can't take as much cargo. And vice versa. So what we normally do is going over to Asia, we'll take off with a totally empty airplane, which there's a lot of people that don't know this, but America really doesn't offer anything to Asia. I mean, we'll take some medicine and just some odds and ends stuff over there, some seafood actually. But otherwise, we typically go from the US and make a 14 or 15 hour flight straight to Japan or China or South Korea. And we do it nonstop because we don't have any cargo, so we can take the fuel. But coming home, everybody, not just Atlas, I mean, UPS, and FedEx, Kalitta, we all stop in Anchorage because it's only a 9 or 10 hour flight. So everything's based on profit, so we can take more cargo, less fuel, more cargo. And then we do a crew change. We call it a tech stop, crew change, put more gas on the aircraft. And then we fly it to like LA or Chicago or Miami's a big one.
How many pilots are on this?
Depends.
Like, say you're going to China.
Again, it depends because in the winter you have real strong headwinds,
right?
Anywhere from 100 to 200 knots. So the amount of pilots depends on how long the flight is. So in the winter, your flight time is going to be longer, and that might just push you over the edge to have 3 or 4 pilots. So 0 to 8 hours, you need 2 pilots. Flight time, you need 2 pilots. 8 to 12 hours, you need 3 pilots. 12 hours and more, you need 4 pilots. And once you reach that 4 pilots, you can actually run the airplane 24/7 legally, never change the crew, and be totally okay with the FAA.
What's it like flying over the ocean? Because that's got to be a murky thing when you just see on the map it's just blue water. I mean, maybe I've watched Castaway one too many times. You know what I mean?
Maybe because it's for us, it's weird. Like I'd like to say we fly at night a lot, but it's really, we don't, because we take off at night over here and we land during the day over there, or we take off during night over there and land during the day over here. So it's kind of half and half, but you don't really think about flying over the water. I mean, we have different procedures for flying over the water. For example, if we're not near a suitable airport or what we call an alternate airport, we got to have certain rules and regulations that protect us. Like we have to have a certain amount of gas and we got to be able to fly on one engine for so long, and we got to have enough oxygen on the airplane. Like if we have to put the oxygen mask on. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. But if everything works correctly, it's really a boring flight.
I bet. Yeah.
You don't even really think of yeah, sure. Your first time you cross the ocean, like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of blue water. And then by the second time you do it, you're like, are we there yet?
So what's it like when you land in China?
China's interesting. One of the first things is, for me, I don't go over there and talk politics. I don't go over there running your mouth like people do over. That would be a bad move, I'm guessing. You know, we have some people at the airline that just say, stick it to them, and they get off the airplane yelling, you know, F their president or whatever.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. And they text obscenities and they speak obscenities, and they do questionable moral things over there. I try to keep my nose clean because, you know what, I don't want to deal with the government over there. They're not going to have any remorse for me. And as much as we think that the U.S. government's going to send SEAL Team 6 to come and save a poor cargo pilot who works for Atlas, man, I think you're dead wrong.
Yeah.
So I keep my nose clean. When you land there, you know, the airports are no different than here. We fly, everything's the same, except the way we read altitude. Over there, we read it in meters, which is really goofy. Everywhere else in the world, we read it in feet. So China just has to be different. So we have these little cards, and we're all on the headsets just like this. And we hear air traffic control. They're like, you know, giant 8652, descend, maintain 4,000 meters. And we're like, that's 13,000 feet. And that's how it is in the cockpit. Like it's so different than over here. Like whereas they say, hey, descend, maintain 13,000 feet. It's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. So the flying aspect's the same. The language barrier, depending where you're at, it's hit or miss. Like the big tourist areas like Beijing or Shanghai, they're really easy to understand. As you get, I've been to Wuhan, so where COVID was born.
Bro.
Wuhan, they don't see a lot of Americans. They don't see a lot of English speakers, and their English is definitely more difficult to understand. When you get off the airplane, actually, right before you get off the airplane, when you pull into the parking stand, they have lip readers, so they'll read your lips to see what you're saying.
What?
So it's kind of again, watch your mouth.
Yeah.
You get off the airplane, you go through customs just like you would anywhere else, except we are over scrutinized. I mean, there's places, again, the touristy areas, it's like swipe your passport, go on with life. But again, you go to like Wuhan, we're the only ones there. Like it's this big airport the size of like Minneapolis. And I'm not kidding you. The 3 or 4 times that I've been there, we were the only airplane moving. I mean, we were probably one of maybe 10 airplanes on the airport, which is amazing considering the size of the airport. And so we get off the airplane. It's like this one ground crew, like 15 people, which is what makes up their ground crew. They start loading the airplane. The van pulls up. They take us over to the customs area. And I remember one time they held our passports for 30 minutes. Well, like there's 4 of us. What are you doing with our passports for 30 minutes? So I don't have an answer for you. But it's that sort of stuff that you just get played with over there. And no 2 stations are the same. Like you go to Wuhan, it's this rigmarole. You go to Beijing, it's this rigmarole. You go to Xiamen, and it's a totally different ballgame. It's like, are we even in the same country anymore?
Yeah.
And they do it just because we're American. Over here, people are concerned about the environment. One of the things that they don't care about over there is the environment.
Coal is going up crazy over there.
Well, for us, like we fly the airplane and we try to be fuel efficient because it saves money. And I mean, for that side of the aisle, I'll tell you that we're being better on the environment.
Yeah.
Over in China, they will make us fly to lower altitude, forcing us to burn a lot more gas just because we're American. They don't care.
Really?
It's Chinese first, Americans last. That's how they treat us over there. That's how the government treats us. So being part of it and seeing it firsthand is, I don't know if, I guess I would use the words. It is a little scary. It is a little intimidating.
I mean, you're going to our biggest rival, arguably, other than probably Russia and in some of these other places. But I mean, China's a scary place, man. I would definitely have some hesitation going over there. But like you said, you're just going there and then they're loading you up and then you just leave. It's not like you're going out there drinking or doing anything.
We actually do. We do stay there.
Oh, you do?
So we get off the air. So the FAA rules as far as duty limitations are not the same as what the union has in place with the company. So yeah, legally speaking, 4 pilots, once we're over that 12-hour mark and we have 4 pilots, we can just fly 24/7. But we don't do that because the union says, So we fly there, we get off the jet, we go clear customs and we go to the hotel. And
so you stay overnight?
Most times, yeah. Every once in a while, we do like a Incheon, South Korea to like Shenzhen, and then over to like Narita, Japan. And those are my favorite turns because it's you get to fly 2 legs in one day in this jumbo jet, which is normally not doing 2 legs in one day. It's more chance for me to get a landing too, because normally you don't get landings because only one guy gets the landing per flight, and I get a landing about once every 30 days, so not nearly enough to stay proficient. But yeah, I mean, going out and ordering food is really interesting because you don't speak the language.
Right.
And I'm not like a super social guy either. Some guys
Some
guys just love Asia. Me, I'm not a big fan. I'd rather be in Europe personally. But nobody over there speaks English really. So you go to Wuhan and no one speaks English. Like we got Google Translate out taking pictures of, like the menus, and we're just pointing to stuff, trying to order food. And sometimes you get what you want. Sometimes you just get what we call mystery meat.
Oh my goodness, bro. Bat meat.
Well, there were bats flying around Wuhan, which is just that's ironic a little bit, I guess.
How close to COVID were you were you ever like a month or 3 away from like when COVID
I wasn't. I didn't start flying at the airline until 2023.
Oh, okay. So it was a long time.
I was well after COVID.
Man.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any close calls when it comes to aviation? Like a time where you're like, okay.
I mean, I've had my emergencies. I've had engines fail where I've ended up landing in a field. I had an engine failure in a twin engine airplane where we obviously had the second engine to keep us flying. That happened on the way into Bismarck. And because we had 2 engines, it's not a big deal. You know, the engine fails, everyone panics for like 20 seconds. And I'm like, okay, actually, we're still flying. This is okay.
Yeah.
I've had an alternator catch on fire, which Wouldn't be a big deal in a car. When you get in an airplane and you started having a fire in the air, it's not like I can just pull over to the side of the road and open the hood and see what's going on. It gets the heart pumping a little bit, but the reality is there's so much redundancy built into the airplanes these days that we all go through the same training at the airline. Like, we go into the simulator, we deal with engine failures, engine fires, we deal with severe damage, we deal with hydraulic failures. I mean, everything. We call it the sweat box for a reason. You go in the sweat box and you just get the crap kicked out of you by the instructor for a few hours, which is good because, I mean, then you get to see all the emergencies, and when you get to the line when you're actually flying and something happens, it's like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, bro, it's a different life you're living. What did you think of the what was it called, Project Overnight, when they flew out of Kansas City and they went, I can't remember what they were in.
B-2 Spirits?
Yeah. What did you think of that? Because that was a crazy thing, because they just flew over there, dropped the bombs, and then flew right back.
So they don't have duty day limits. So I think what the news reported is they flew 2 pilots for like 34 hours or whatever the number of hours was, which I can't imagine doing.
Bro.
But I mean, the military has a whole program for that. Like, I think they have a certain dietary
you got
plan for them. Like before they fly, and then I don't know what they do while they're flying. I hope they have a bathroom on board, because that would get kind of awkward. I mean, obviously we have a bathroom on board, but we're not flying a stealth bomber delivering a payload.
Just the thought process of that. So say you're that pilot and you know this big project and this big, like, nobody knows about it except the Secretary of Defense, President Trump, select few people.
Right.
And then you got to go and, oh, hey, by the way, you need to diet has to be this. You should probably get some sleep. You can't tell anybody. And then this is going to be a turn and burn. So you just come back right away. And oh, hey, you got to make sure no radars or anything hit you when you're on your way over there. Because that came true, evidently. That's what I read on the news. They weren't recognized by any of the radar technology.
To me, that's actually, well, they're stealth bombers, so they're designed to obviously avoid the radar.
Yeah.
But that's probably the most impressive part to me. Like, for example, like, let's say we take off in our 777 and we fly our cargo over to like Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. I mean, we take off out of Chicago. We talk to Chicago ground control. We talk to the tower. We talk to the departure control. We talk to the en route center controllers. We talk to Oceanic. We talk on the HF, and then we start texting once we get over the ocean. We're in constant contact with somebody, in air traffic control the entire flight, from the time that we pull the chocks, even before that, to the time we put the chocks in. We're talking to people the whole time. And if we lose communications, it's actually a big deal. Well, I shouldn't say a big deal. It's not a big deal as far as safety is concerned. But for us in the cockpit, we go into kind of like, hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? I mean, we all have plans for that. But these guys just took off out of, I think it was Whiteman Air Force Base.
It's in Kansas City, wasn't it?
I think it's Missouri.
Missouri, okay.
I think it's close to Kansas City, if I remember correctly. And they just took off, and because they're stealth, I don't think they talked to anybody. They just took off and went. And that's the crazy part to me. They flew halfway around the world, delivered a very impressive payload very accurately, and then just flew home like it was another day at work. Like, hey, honey, I'll be home tomorrow.
Yeah.
Where are you going? Around the block.
Around the world.
I like take my fiance, Kelsey, for example. Yeah. Like, when I fly at the airline, I mean, even when I fly my own airplane, she's texting me, hey, where are you going? What time are you leaving? Text me when you take off. Text me when you land. Like, I mean, I'm talking to so many people outside of air traffic control that know who I am and where I'm at. These guys, I mean, what they did was an impressive mission. And it's impressive, to me, most impressive from that angle as a pilot, I guess. And then not to mention the fatigue that they had to have felt after. I mean, can you imagine being awake for 24 hours?
Yes.
Let alone sitting there having to fly a $1 billion aircraft. And you have to fly it halfway around the world. So you're flying it probably 14, I don't know how long that flight would be, 14 hours to get there. So you're probably tired by the time you get there. And now you have to accurately deliver your weapons. That's impressive.
I mean, imagine the stress that adds to that. Knowing that not only, okay, we got to get there, but now we got to execute, and then hopefully nobody sees us and then go. Because if that fails, could you imagine what would have broke out? Like, it would have been even worse if they failed the mission. The bombs went in the wrong spot. They got, somebody, China saw them flowing over there, so then they started something. Who knows?
Right.
But dude, there's a lot to that.
Oh, by the way, you get there and you might get shot at.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like, dude, it's so much with With AI coming into the picture and just about everything, do you see AI changing any of the flight stuff or any pilot stuff, aviation stuff?
Well, I think technology is always improving. So we have already seen improvements even in the jet that I'm flying. I mean, we went from what we call steam gauges, round gauges with needles on them, and that's what they were flying with, 40 years ago. The 777 that I'm flying just turned 30 years old not too long ago, and it had glass displays in it already back in the early 90s. And we're still flying with that same technology today, although we've had some upgrades to it, obviously. In the meantime, like we used to talk on the radio a lot. Now we are transitioning more to a texting system. Like we text the company, we text the air traffic controllers, we receive clearances from them. We literally have 3 buttons, like accept, reject, and cancel. And it's like they send us a message and it goes ding dong. Okay, what is it? Let's see. Okay, climb to flight level 380, so 38,000 feet. Accept. Then we bug it, hit the button, and we go start climbing up. And they can see it on their end that not only did we receive the message, accept the message, but we are actually complying with the message too. So to me, that's a huge improvement domestically. We've had it internationally for a while, but domestically, we're just starting to implement that. But I think like maybe what you're hinting at is single pilot operations in airliners. There's been a lot of talk about it. I've been a firm believer that we are way too early in the stages for that to happen. And I think literally within the last week or 2 weeks here, somebody did a study and they determined that, hey, the technology is just not quite there yet. So we're going to revisit this idea in the future. I'm sure they set a timeline for it. I don't remember what the article said. But for me as a pilot, I think my career is safe. I'm 27 years old. I can fly till I'm 65 at the airlines. I don't foresee that being an issue.
Yeah, it's just like some of the things that are coming up definitely with AI is scary for a lot of people. But we agreed to this and we're talking, I'm like, I wonder if that would affect anything with aviation, because it's such a precise thing where like one little miscue or one little, hey, I don't understand this. So, I get it. Driverless cars cause accidents, but could you imagine a driverless plane causing an accident? That would be a big, big problem. So, I mean, I wasn't saying they're going to take your job or anything. I'm just trying to figure out like what it's going to do. Because I had a teacher on here and he was telling me how AI is eventually going to write lessons plans and make the that much easier for teachers. Or here's a lesson plan idea, implement your idea with the two, and it's just becoming more and more involved. So I'm just wondering how it goes with you.
I mean, we've autopilot.
yeah, definitely. That's
I think just more integration as far as the technology goes into the aircraft. But for the foreseeable future, we're gonna have a guy in the cockpit. We can do what we call an auto land. Not every airline, not every airplane, not every pilot is certified for that. So like for us at Atlas, we go through specific training as the pilot, and the airplane has to meet certain standards on every single flight in order to be capable of doing that auto land. So we would do an auto land. The one that I've done in the real world, we were doing Atlanta to Anchorage, and we rolled into Anchorage, and it was like unforecast fog. We couldn't see 600 feet in front of us. I take that back. 600 feet are our minimums. I think it was slightly above that. It was like 800 feet or 1,000 feet or something, which 1,000 feet, like when you're coming down final approach at 140 knots, I mean, that you cover that distance in a real quick time. So it's so low, we can't even see the runway. Oftentimes when we come in, we flare. When the visibility is that low, the cockpit actually goes back into the clouds. So when we came in, we auto landed. It was kind of a freaky experience for me for the first time doing it. Like putting all my trust in this computer.
Yes.
And like I've hand flown this. I've flown the needles, dead nuts accurately down to the runway. But now I'm trusting the computer to do it. It's like, oh man, don't screw this up, dude.
Yeah, seriously.
But it did a nicer job than I think most pilots do. And it came in, round out, and flared perfectly and greased it right on the runway. And by the time the nose started coming down, we broke out of the cockpit broke out of the clouds, and we could finally see the runway again. And thrust reverser spoilers came up, and I was like, that was actually very uneventful. But I mean, the briefing with the captain before we did that was, hey man, if these needles, if they come like a hair off of center, doesn't matter what it is, just call the go around, where we would push the power in, suck the gear up, and we just get out of there. Like, we're not messing with it. So
yeah, that putting all your trust in something like that. There was something that happened to me, and I'm hearing it more and more from my friends. But when I was flying into Phoenix, busy airport, a lot going on, and the pilot came on and he goes, okay, we're gonna land here. Just want to let you know it's 85, 7 o'clock. You should be able to, we're right on time. We go down to descend, and then all of a sudden, pick back up, and we circle around. Nobody comes on. Same thing. We go back down, pick back up, then we go back a third time, and now people are starting to get a little antsy. We finally land. He didn't come on and say anything, but I'm guessing like there was a plane backing up or something like that, but he didn't say anything to the point where I was kind of like, okay, we're circling now. It was an extra like 35 minutes. So
Yeah.
when that type of stuff happens, what's usually going on? Is there, because you're hearing like, no, seriously.
There's a magnitude of things that can go on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something as simple as they're doing training in the airplane. And it's not that they're trying to do that intentionally, but here, not to scare you guys, but the first time you actually fly a jumbo jet or any jet at the airline, you come straight out of the simulator, and your first time flying is with passengers on the airplane.
Wow.
Like it's a live flight. So yeah, you are put with what we call a check airman, who is supposed to be the senior, extra qualified individual to handle this newbie, this rookie. But we have criteria that we have to meet. So if we're coming down final approach and this new guy is not meeting the stabilized approach criteria because it's his first time flying maybe a jet period, or maybe his first time flying this specific model of jet, it doesn't make it unsafe. It means that he's outside of that safe criteria. So we call the go around. And again, we push power and we just go around. So it could be something like that. It could be weather related. It could be perfectly clear outside, at least where we're at. But there could be wind or wind shear, or maybe a rain shaft moved right over top the airport and they started diverting all the arrivals in there. So they divert all the arrivals around. You just enter a holding pattern for a little bit. 10, 15, 20 minutes later, you can start the arrivals back up, and then you just come back in and try it again. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Maybe you could have a disabled aircraft on the runway. I mean, the guy who went in front of you, maybe he blew a tire. And blowing a tire is not a big deal for us, but now you have what we call FOD, or foreign object debris, on the runway, which takes time for them to clear. So, I mean, or it could be simple, like here in North Dakota, we get coyotes.
Yeah, look out.
Maybe a coyote ran across the runway.
Yeah.
I've actually been the reason why an airliner went around before. I landed with a gentleman here in town who owns his own airplane. I was giving him some flight instruction in it. We landed, we blew a tire. And, without our one tire on that side of the airplane, we couldn't taxi. It's not like an airliner where we have two or more tires than that on a truck. We just have that one tire. So once it went flat, we called the tower and said, hey, we blew a tire. We're disabled. We're going to be stuck here until the mechanic can come out, put a new tire on us, and we can start back up and taxi in. And there was an airliner 4, 5, 6 miles behind us. And so they had to send him around, and came back around. He landed on the other runway.
Oh,
So,
wow.
My bad, but I have been the cause of that before. So sorry if that was you.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I just saw, and this came up too, black boxes. Very interesting. Very, very, one of the things that makes it, like, I guess, kind of safe, because they always know where you are with one of those. What do you think of black boxes, and what do people need to know about black boxes?
They're actually orange.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. An orange box.
They're orange. I don't actually know where they get the name black box. I'm in the industry, so I probably should know that, but I don't. All they do is record the flight data. So they're recording all the inputs from the flight controls. They're recording the everything about the engine, the thrust, the parameters that the engine was running. So like your oil pressure, your exhaust gas temperature, where your N1 and N2s are, everything about the airplane, they're measuring it. And it's getting stored and rewrote or written over as the stuff gets old. I think it's every 30 minutes. So it only stores 30 minutes of data. So we always and then the cockpit voice recorder does the same thing. So we always make the joke, well, we said something rather poorly, so let's not crash in the next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing anybody really needs to know about them other than it's no different than your MacBook on an Excel spreadsheet recording every data point possible about the aircraft.
I wonder what happened to the Malaysia one.
There's an hour-long YouTube video on that. You can go watch that.
I bet, yeah.
But basically, to sum it up, we think the captain basically had a death wish, or I think it was a suicide, where he knew enough about the aircraft where he disabled all the trackers on it in layman's terms, and he turned the aircraft away from where it should have been, and it was out of radar contact for a long time, so they didn't know where it was at, and put it down in the ocean. I could be wrong about that. It's been a long time since I've watched that video, but it's actually very in-depth, hour-long YouTube series on it. So,
speaking of YouTube series, I went down a black hole of Amelia Earhart because they supposedly found something now on that island that they think she crashed by.
Oh, really?
And a bunch of people think it's a tree, but this one guy's like, no, we're going out there. I think he's with Vanderbilt University. But anyways, this guy was like, I saw it because it was on NBC Nightly News. I was with my parents, so I had to watch the news, and that came up. So I'm like, oh man, yeah, I kind of forgot about Amelia. And then I went on YouTube and I found this guy, and he was talking about it. It's so surreal to me that we went from that type of airplane to like what you're flying back and forth to China. Like it's unreal. And what's 10 years from now going to be like? You know, it's always evolving.
Hopefully supersonic, but
yeah, I mean,
or supersonic again.
How do you feel about this development? I mean, when you think about the first airplane to now what you're using, it's got to be, your industry is very, very good at adapting.
Very good. I mean, I think we have to, in a way, thank World War II a lot for it. I mean, aviation went leaps and bounds during World War II. A jet engine's impressive. But I'll put a plug in for the museum. If you ever get a chance to go up to the museum and look at some of the technology that they were running back then. I mean, you think today, like you look at your average 737, you're like, yeah, it's 2025. That's pretty cool, you know, but it's 2025. Like, duh, it exists. Go look at the Rolls-Royce Merlin engines that's in the Mustangs. Or actually, it ended up in a lot of airplanes for World War II. And you start looking at that engine, and it's like, I can't believe they made this in 1940.
Yeah.
So to your point, I don't know what's going to be next. You know, I think, well, maybe a little bit. What's going to be next is the supersonic travel again. Went from the Concorde, had the big accident, it went away. And like, I think United even has a bunch of orders in for the next, what they call boom airplane, supersonic airplane again. So I'll be interested to see how that could end up shaking out, but it'll probably be a few years before we see another big advancement. But for now, we're stuck with the 737 MAX.
Is UND known as one of the better flight academies?
I gotta be careful what I say.
Yeah. Because you hear about it all the time. People, and Grand Forks has the Air Force Base, and it's kind of an Air Force town, if you will. But it seems like if you want to become a pilot, you will go to UND. And UND, I remember when I was flying into Arizona, they had a thing right there on the airport to University of North Dakota. So it's a big thing, man.
There's a few different schools out there. There's UND, there's Embry-Riddle. One of the big pilot mills out there is ATP. If you want to learn how to fly and make it a career, those are definitely all good options. They're what I still call pilot mills, where they have one goal in mind.
Cookie cutter.
Here's your cookie cutter. You know, monkey see, monkey do, monkey gets a banana.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying they're not good pilots.
Right.
But you definitely see some discrepancies in some of the guys that come out of those schools. And not that those discrepancies won't be fixed later on down the line. I'll put it like this. If you go to a mom and pop shop, like say right here in mine at North Dakota, learn how to fly. They got a great flight school. You got great flight instructors, good airplanes. What you'll get is you learn how to fly an airplane. You learn to fly the airplane really well. What tends to be lacking at a mom and pop shop is that ground school, that ground knowledge. So you're probably not going to be as strong with those aerodynamics, that airspace that we were talking about, those regulations. But you go to a place like UND where now you have to go to that college class, and you have to sit in that college class and listen to this professor talk about weather and aerodynamics and the airspace and all this stuff. You're going to be pretty good at it. But then when you go to the flying aspect and you're learning to fly from these typically less experienced flight instructors, a lot of these programs, what they do is they take their graduates and they hire them as their own flight instructors now. So you're not really having a real experienced person teaching. Whereas you come to these mom and pop shops, you'll find that, you know, corporate pilot who's got 15,000 hours and he's been flying the 1% of the US around for, you know, the last 25 years. He probably knows what he's doing a little bit better than a 300-hour student that's just graduated out of UND last year. So they're better at the ground school. These guys are typically better at the flying. I guess that's kind of the best answer I can leave it.
No, that's
with.
well put. That's well put. If you could take anybody on a flight, dead or alive, to anywhere, who would it be and where would you go?
Who would it be? Where would I go? Oh, boy, I haven't really thought about that. That's a really good question. Leonardo da Vinci, maybe.
Ooh, where you taking Da Vinci?
Where would I take him?
China.
Hey, the Great Wall of China is kind of cool to see, but what would be? I mean, I think something as simple as flying by the mountain peaks down in Colorado or the mountain peaks up in Alaska, fly by a glacier, just something scenic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, guy like that is probably gonna be blown away by by flying in general, let alone being able to see the wonders of the world. So
I thought for sure you were going to say our guy Hans Zimmer.
Well,
I thought for sure that was a given.
I'm pretty sure Hans can afford his own private jet.
Me too.
So.
Me too. We were so close to going to a concert of his. Remember that?
I still think we should.
I still think we should too. I am so like when I'm in the morning when I go on the elliptical, I just listen to all of his albums.
Yeah.
Like it's just the best. And Kristen calls me a nerd all the time, but dude, he's a genius, like a stone cold genius.
Absolutely. I was listening to his score from The Lion King yesterday, flying under the clouds, looking up at this big giant thunderstorm that's coming. Well, I guess I'm coming pretty close to it. And it's just The Lion King in the background, it makes the moment a little more powerful.
Yes. He's got such a great personality. Like I was listening to him on a podcast today. Well, that one I sent you.
Yeah.
And he takes the orchestra out for a bottle of wine. And Interstellar was such a good movie. But they didn't give me the script, so I didn't know what to do. But it's just his personality, the way he did the studio that he was talking in. He wants everybody to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. He was actually talking about what you were just talking about. He's like, I hate the factory aspect of the industry where we just want this. He's like, no. I want to read the script. I want to get the feelings. I want to meet with the director. And that's why he's so good. Yeah. And that's just like anything in life. You have to want to be willing to go outside of the box to be great.
Right.
No matter what you're doing. That's got to be true, don't you think?
Well, with him, yeah. I mean, with anything in life, what I say is you can go be good at something. You can have a real skill for something. But if you want to, be the great, you have to turn what you're doing into an art. Mm-hmm. And for him, the music is the art. And he's very good at that. I think for flying, you go watch an air show and those guys flying the little tossy, turny, ups and down aerobatics, there's little airplanes. It looks like they're really getting tossed around inside the airplane. They really are. But for them to be that accurate and that good at it, I mean, for them, it's an art. Mm-hmm. Your average Joe Blow going and flying his 777 at work is not going to do that. Yeah. So I meet a lot of guys at the airline who they enjoy flying. They enjoy their job, but that's the only flying they do. So for them, it's more of a job. And they can be good at their job, but it's not an art. And when I land the airplane, I really try to make it my art. Everything from, you come down, you hit the mains, and it's like a good landing. Most people just drop the nose and just goes, boom, hits the ground. It makes for a rougher landing. I like to actually fly the nose wheel down and get a nice little kiss on the pavement.
Beautiful.
That's my art.
Yes. Well, that's good, man. That's good. You found that. It gives you joy in life.
Yeah.
I could talk to you all night, brother. We've been at this for 50 minutes, but a question I asked everybody on swim lessons is leave us with something. Maybe it was a quote you heard somebody say in a story that has helped you through some of your tougher times and brought you back to the light, if you will.
Kelsey warned me out of this. So I've actually had a little bit of time to think about it. And we've talked about aviation, so I think I'll relate it to that a little bit. In aviation, for an up-and-comer, someone who's maybe in high school, or even they're looking for a second career, and they're searching for that answer of, hey, how do I get into aviation? Look, you're going to talk to a lot of people in aviation. You're going to talk to that Delta pilot. You're going to talk to that corporate pilot. You might talk to Kim Kardashian's pilot. I don't know. But one thing most people in aviation are going to tell you is, I did it this way. For example, I went to UND, or I learned at a mom and pop shop, or maybe I flew F-15s in the military. Therefore, that's the way you have to do it. And I don't like that. There's a million ways to get into aviation. All of them are correct. Maybe some are more fun. Maybe some are more challenging. But you have to figure out what works for you. If you try to do what worked for somebody else, and blueprint it, it's probably not going to go as well for you as it did for them. So figure it out for yourself. And I think you can apply that in a lot of different aspects of life. Live your own life.
Yeah. Tremendous, man. Tremendous. Well, listen, dude, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to having you as a brother. And it's going to be great. It's awesome for me because I knew Kelsey for a long time. Chris and I have been together for 5 years, and to see her, how happy she is when she's around you, and how she because it was always me, Kristen, and Kelsey going out to dinner. And then Austin came along, and I'm like, hey, does Kelsey want to go with? No, she's going to Austin's. I'm like, what? Yeah. What? Why can't she go? It's nice to see that she's found somebody, and she's really, really happy. And I mean, she glows. And I mean, dude, I have enjoyed getting to know you so much. Like when we're in Minneapolis and we're hanging out at that pizza place, me and you were making the two Kristen and Kelsey mad, and put a filter on it, like that type of stuff. It was just fun, man. It's been great to get to know.
That was the place I broke the wine glass, right?
That was the best, dude. And even Dean, who can't hear, he's like, "What was that?" That was good, and we got to make the Hans Zimmer thing happen.
Yeah, I'm serious. I will go. That's a bucket list item for me.
Oh, so dude, me too. And
we'll fly there.
I'm jealous too. You're getting to go to the Packers-Bengals game. That's the one thing that you and I don't agree on is I'm a Chiefs, you're Bengals.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. I'm sorry too, but you got great seats. Where are you guys sitting at again?
30-yard line. Look, I mean,
it's in Lambeau too, right?
In Lambeau, yeah.
Wow.
I'm a Bengals fan, but I think I'm going to have to put on a Packers jersey for this just because it's in Lambeau. So
yeah, dude, I got yelled at so bad. But I painted my face too, and I was kind of asking for it.
Yeah, you probably looked like a goofball, huh?
Worse than normal. Well, brother, I appreciate you. And
thank you.
Yeah, man, you're the best. Good luck with everything, and can't wait for the wedding.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, everybody.